Hey, this is Jacqueline from Outside the Box Educator Workshops. Thank you for joining us for our Creatures in the Classroom Praying Mantis video workshop. If you're looking for more workshops, you can find them on our website at www.outsidetheboxworkshops.ca. This is a really exciting workshop. We're going to be talking about how to hatch a mantis egg, how to care for the mantis during all stages of its life, the diet and the habitat, fun facts about the praying mantis, and curriculum ideas for children 4 to 12. There's going to be a lot of important information during this workshop, so if you'd like to take notes, feel free to do so. This is an ootheca. The formal name for a praying mantis egg is called an ootheca. It surrounds the mantis eggs inside. One of these can have 50 to 200 mantis babies inside. It's pretty incredible. The hard ootheca protects the eggs over the winter, and when the weather warms up in the spring, the babies will hatch. I discovered that you can buy a mantis egg as a natural pest control for your garden, and I decided it would be a great discovery for my kindergarten classroom as well. So let's talk about how to do this. You can purchase an ootheca from a website called naturalinsectcontrol.com. I have also been able to find eggs on Amazon and Costco's websites. You're going to want to purchase these around March or April. I recommend purchasing your egg as early into the spring as you can so your students will have time to see the full life cycle of the mantis. The oothecas are from the Chinese mantis, which is not harmful to the environment. It's actually a beneficial insect. Mantis eggs are commonly bought and hatched in gardens as a way to keep pests away without using pesticides. When you receive your egg case, you will need to secure it to a branch or a tall skewer. You can use a hot glue gun to carefully glue the leftover branch to a new branch. What we're trying to do here is mimic the way an ootheca would be in nature. The egg case will not hatch if it's laying on the ground. The babies need gravity in order to hatch properly. In nature, the egg is laid on a specific angle, as you can see in these photos. This way, it is protected from the wind and the weather. Keep your egg in the enclosure away from direct sunlight in a warm room. It's important to have an appropriate habitat for your mantids. Remember, you could potentially have 200 tiny babies coming out of this egg. You want to ensure you have enough space. Since mantids like to climb up high, you're going to be looking for an enclosure that is tall rather than wide. I recommend something 2 feet tall at a minimum. Some ideas would be an insect habitat like you see in these photos. They are lightweight, easy to see into, and quite tall. You can find them on Amazon. The most important aspect of the enclosure is the netting. You will want to have the finest netting that you can find. For example, the holes in a window screen are too big and will allow the babies to escape. Choose fabric that is similar to silk curtains or fine mesh because it allows airflow in, but the babies cannot escape through the holes. If you want to create a more affordable habitat, you could use recycled plastic tall containers. The babies will need airflow, so you will need to create windows and cover them with fine mesh. In the past, I have done this using a drill with a circular drill bit attachment. I cut large holes in the plastic and then I use hot glue to glue mesh over the holes. Just remember, the mesh that you choose should be fine. Think of it this way: if a fruit fly can escape through the holes are too big. If you have a larger budget and you feel that you can invest in doing this project every year, you could invest in something more substantial like a terrarium. So let's talk about caring for your ootheca. There are a few tips you will need to know in order for your ootheca to hatch properly. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important that your ootheca is secured to a stick and it's placed at least 1 foot off the ground. To hold my stick upright, I placed it in a deep cup full of sand, soil, or gravel. The next tip is also very important. You need to mimic the outdoor environment, specifically rain or dew. You will need to have a spray bottle and fill it with distilled water. Distilled water is important as it doesn't contain any chemicals or fluoride that tap water does. You could also use rainwater if you gather it in a bucket outdoors and pour it into your spray bottle. You are going to want to mist your Uthaka each day to ensure that the egg case won't dry out, just like in the wild where the rain would keep the egg from drying out. You're going to want to add a variety of sticks and branches into your habitat. Branches are essential because the mantids will use them for molting. Avoid taking branches from areas where there's pesticides. On the floor of your habitat, you could add natural materials like soil, wood shavings, or shredded paper. You just want to avoid any materials that contain chemicals or pesticides. Praying mantids don't spend a lot of time on the ground, so this step is optional. Now let's talk about hatching. Your baby mantids will emerge within 3 to 10 weeks. This is why it's important to get your Uthaka as early in the spring as you can. There are no signs to look for when the babies are ready to hatch. The egg won't change in its shape, color, or size. But if you notice babies pushing out of the egg case, you know that they're hatching. Do not disturb the babies while they're emerging. Sometimes you might notice that not all the babies have survived. This is normal. It is likely why so many babies hatch from one egg. Not all will survive. That's just something that happens in nature. These photos show how the babies come out of the egg. You can see why having the egg up high is so important. The babies need to push out and dry off properly, and if the egg is on the ground, that won't happen. So once your babies hatch, what are you going to do now? Now is the time when you need to buy a source of food for the babies. The easiest source of food to buy are called flightless fruit flies. You can usually find these at pet stores like Critter Jungle or any pet store that focuses on more exotic pets. You're going to want to do some research beforehand to ensure that you can easily have the food ready when your babies hatch. Call some pet stores in your area to see which ones carry flightless fruit flies. You want to make sure that the fruit flies that you purchase are the smallest that are available. Even large fruit flies are too big for the baby mantids. The baby mantids are about the size of a black ant. You will want to ensure that you feed some fruit flies to your mantids every day. Once you buy your container of fruit flies, now comes the tricky part. How do you open your mantis habitat and pour some fruit flies in without the baby mantids escaping? This is something that I struggled with when I first hatched a mantis egg, but I found a solution that works quite well with minimal stress. If you're working with a container like this, simply open the zipper about an inch, stick a large funnel inside, and pour some fruit flies down the funnel. Tap the funnel to ensure all the flies have gone down the hole. Then remove the funnel and zip it back up. If you're working with a plastic container, I suggest drilling a hole in the side and putting tape over the hole when it's not in use. When you're ready to feed the mantids, remove the tape and quickly put the funnel into the hole. Pour fruit flies into the funnel, and then remember to put the tape back over the hole when you're done. You might notice that it's pretty crowded with up to 200 babies in your enclosure. I usually let a lot of my babies go into the garden a few days after they hatch to free up some space in my enclosure. Make sure that it is no longer below freezing outdoors if you release them. I usually keep around 20 babies for my students to observe. I find this more manageable. Now you might be wondering, do praying mantis eat each other? The answer is yes, absolutely yes. Which is another reason you might want to only keep a few babies instead of all 200. As the mantis grow larger, it is recommended to house them in separate containers. Another thing to remember is to mimic nature once the babies are born and settled in. I would ensure to mist the enclosure the day after the babies are born. and then mist it once a day, every day going forward. The humidity is important for proper molting, which is when a mantis sheds its skin and grows. Let's talk about the babies. A baby praying mantis is called a nymph. Nymphs will eat fruit flies, tiny aphids, and anything small enough for them to catch. It's difficult to distinguish male or female nymphs at this stage of their life. At this stage, their life pretty much consists of eating and molting. You will likely find your nymphs on the top of their enclosure, hanging out, waiting for prey. Overall, praying mantis are not super active insects. They usually stay still, waiting to ambush their next meal. A few days after the nymphs hatch, and you are confident that all of them have come out of the egg, you can take the Uthaka out of the habitat if you'd like. It's a great addition to your science area or for your children to observe. After about a week, you might notice something strange in your enclosure. The mantids might stop eating for a day or two. Then one day you might look in the enclosure and find a bunch of skins all around. You might also notice, hey, the nymphs are bigger. This means the nymphs have molted. They have likely doubled in their size overnight. It is important not to disturb the mantids when they are molting. They won't eat during this time either, so you can skip feeding for the day. This is a great time to start discussing molting with your students. You can show them videos and photos and have great discussions. A praying mantis will molt around 6 to 8 times in their lifetime before they reach adulthood. As they molt, they will get bigger and bigger, and you will need to upgrade their food source. After 3 or 4 molts, your mantis may be big enough to start eating pinhead crickets. You can find pinhead crickets at most pet stores. Simply ask for the smallest crickets that they carry. Other things a mantis could eat would be things like larger flies, small grasshoppers, caterpillars, and aphids. As they become a few inches long, it might be time to start housing them in their own separate containers as well. Let's talk a little bit more about molting. Sometimes a mantis won't molt properly. They may end up molting and losing a limb. The amazing thing is that when they molt next time, they can regrow that missing limb. Molting problems generally happen when there isn't enough humidity and it's too dry. This is why we mist the enclosure daily or every other day. Remember, you don't need to feed the praying mantis while they are molting. You need to be careful because some feeder insects will actually bite the mantis as they're waiting to molt. So now that we've talked about molting, let's talk more in depth about the mantis and its body. The more I began to learn about the mantis, the more I saw how incredibly interesting they are. Despite their freaky appearance, they are an insanely cool insect. Let's start with their arms. Mantids have 2 arms in the front which they use to catch prey. These are called raptorial arms. These arms have spikes on them to help them catch and hold on to their prey. They are also extremely fast. They can move their arms as quickly as a human eye blinking. They also have 4 walking legs. A praying mantis has compound eyes, binocular vision, and is able to see objects 50 feet away. It can also turn its head a full 180 degrees and look behind itself. Another fun fact about the praying mantis is they only have 1 ear and it's located on their belly. They can also detect ultrasound and echolocation made by bats. Now you may be wondering, can a praying mantis hurt me? Does it sting? Is it poisonous? The reality is, unless you are a bug, you have nothing to worry about. Praying mantids don't have stingers, poison, or teeth that can harm you. If you did startle a mantis and tried to pick it up, it might grab you with its raptorial arms, but this won't draw blood. It feels more like you've touched a cactus. So what does a praying mantis use as a defense mechanism? If a mantis is threatened, it tries to look big and intimidating. It stands up tall, holds its arms up high, and puffs up its wings to scare away predators. It's a pretty cool maneuver. Seriously, would you mess with that? Now let's talk about wings. You might be wondering why your nymphs don't have wings. Praying mantis only grow their wings on their last molt, officially bringing them into adulthood. When your mantis is reaching maturity, you will start to notice wing buds developing on their back. These usually appear when the mantis is around 4 inches long. This is a good indication that your mantis will be a full-grown adult with wings within the next few weeks. As your mantis becomes an adult, you will now be able to tell if they are male or female. There are a few things to look for to distinguish between male and female. First, the males are usually thin and slim, where the females have a distinct chubby belly. This is because she will eventually be laying an egg. The male and female mantis both have wings. The male's wings will go past his abdomen, where the female's wings will be shorter. Males can fly for longer distances, where females can fly for short bursts just to get away from predators. Her chubby belly makes it difficult to fly. Males also have more abdominal segments and a longer abdomen, where females have fewer segments and a shorter abdomen. You may be wondering, are mantids safe to handle? I know they can seem scary to look at, but they're actually very gentle. Simply put your hand out to allow the mantis to climb on. Don't grab the mantis with your hand. Instead, act as a road for it to walk on. They won't hurt you. If you are holding an adult mantis with wings, just be aware that he could fly around a little bit. You can actually encourage him to fly from one of your hands to the other. Here is a photo of me holding some of our mantids from our classroom. If you keep your mantis through adulthood, you may notice your female mantis laying an ootheca. She will lay an egg even if she doesn't have a partner. But if she doesn't have a partner, the eggs won't be fertilized. The female usually dies a few weeks after laying an egg. A mantis's lifespan is only 1 year, which might also explain why they have so many babies at once. Now I'd like to share some curriculum and activity ideas you can bring into your program. A great book that you could add to your program is called My Awesome Summer by P. Mantis. It's a creative little story all about a mantis's life and adventures. After having a few discussions about the body parts of a mantis, we invited the students to create a watercolor painting. They first drew the outline with black Sharpie and then painted it. These turned out so beautifully. You can see that they've made raptorial arms. Some children drew a mantis with their ootheca. Some drew a chubby belly because it was a girl. You can see the triangular head in a lot of these drawings, the compound eyes, and the 4 walking legs. Most children were even inspired to copy and label their painting with the words Praying Mantis. Look how unique each of these paintings are. Each child has made their mantis in their own way, and each work of art tells a story. Next, we have a mantis craft. The children used construction paper to build their mantis, placed it on a branch, and added a leaf for camouflage. As a group activity, you could work together to label the parts of the mantis's body. I drew a big mantis on chart paper and had the students tell me about the body parts. I filled in the blanks as some of the words were too advanced for kindergartners to write. Here you can see all the parts of the mantis: 2 antennae, compound eyes, the mouth, the head, the raptorial arms, the thorax, the wings, the abdomen, and the walking legs. You could also incorporate journals. If you have journals as part of your weekly activities, you might notice some new interests being shown. Here one of the students drew 2 praying mantids. You can see a brown ball underneath them also. This student wasn't at the stage of writing yet, but when I asked him what he drew so I could scribe it, he said it was a girl and a boy mantis and an ootheca. You could also create a matching game using photos of praying mantids. Did you know that there are different species of mantids? Chinese mantis, orchid mantis, ghost mantis, Carolina mantis, dead leaf mantis, spiny flower mantis. Print pictures and make matching pairs to create a mantis match memory game. If you're looking for something fun to do in the gym or outdoors, you could create a mantis version of Duck Duck Goose, Uthaka Uthaka Nymph. You could also encourage your students to create the mantis life cycle in a book. See if you can find craft materials in your cupboard to make the Uthaka, the nymph, and the adult mantis. Maybe something like cardboard egg cartons, green craft foam, popsicle sticks, and leaves from outside. You could also add some fun to your dramatic play area by creating mantis masks. After I introduced the praying mantis into my classroom, I noticed that we learned a lot of really interesting things. We learned to respect living things and care for living things despite their appearance. We practiced writing skills. We learned the parts of an insect. We learned that all insects have 6 legs. We learned about beneficial bugs. We learned about the species of the mantids. And we learned a lot of new vocabulary like Uthaka, raptorial arms, nymph, thorax, abdomen, binocular vision, etc. When school ended in June, we released the mantids out into the wild. When September came and a new school year started, something amazing happened. The children ran over to me and told me that they found a praying mantis. As I moved closer to where they were pointing, I noticed one of our praying mantis had come back to say hello. Here's a photo of her. As you can see, she is now full grown and about 6 inches long. We observed her for a day or two and then we released her back into the wild. It was really awesome to follow up with the students to see if they remembered all the things that we learned last year. The greatest thing about this was the children weren't afraid of the mantis. They had a new understanding and love for insects. Even though a mantis is freaky looking, the children had a newfound respect for it. I hope you learned a lot about the praying mantis and all it has to offer. It's such an interesting insect, and I hope you consider incorporating one into your classroom. There are so many learning opportunities that come with this project. We want to thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you learned a lot, and we hope you'll come and visit us soon.